The Ravens have been contenders ever since John Harbaugh has been the head coach, but it's been, I think, his biggest coaching challenge this year with all the players that have been injured, the players that haven't been available due to COVID, and now Lamar Jackson. We saw him practicing on sawdust. I know Ravens fans that it really wasn't sawdust. It just looked like sawdust on Wednesday. Limping around. He didn't practice on Thursday. That's not a good sign. After he was clearly affected by the ankle in the video that we saw him from Wednesday. It sure looks like Tyler Huntley, who's now back from the COVID reserve list, is going to be the guy as the Ravens try to beat the Rams on Sunday. And there's Lamar Jackson on the sawdust from Wednesday. And you can just tell he's not – why was he even out there? Maybe he needed to prove to himself. Maybe he insisted on giving it a try. And after he hobbled around, he realized that ankle still got some time before he can play, Peter.
Yeah, the only thing I would say about this is not that, who needs Lamar Jackson? I don't mean that. Obviously, they want him badly. But I think in what we've seen of Tyler Huntley, we have seen a player who can be competitive, who can lead drives, who, especially after the fourth quarter of the last game he played, was absolutely terrific. So, look, I talked to Calais Campbell yesterday. This, against all odds, this is a very optimistic football team right now. And look, John Harbaugh is basically, he's preaching to the choir about the golden opportunity that's ahead of him. And look, I don't know that many people who think they're going to beat the Rams on Sunday, but they got a lot of their guys back. And Mike, the one other thing that I think is really interesting just about this particular matchup, okay? So you look at the Rams, they had 30 players overall test positive. And so now those 30 players, the vast majority of whom are back, if not all, I don't even know the numbers, but the vast majority are back. Now they got this 90-day window where they're not going to be tested, where they are perceived anyway, in CDC parlance, to be immune for the next 3 months. And so it's almost like the Rams got it out of their system, and a lot of Ravens got it out of their system too, so that it's not something that is the worry for some other teams around the league, that maybe the plague has yet to visit their team yet. So we'll see what happens. But that's one angle of this game that I think is really interesting.
Well, and again, we'll be talking about the COVID situation coming up later in the program, but you hit the nail on the head. The only good news, if there is any good news from what's been going on the past couple of weeks, when you get to the other side of your outbreak, you're good to go. Key players, good to go.
You're
Carson Wentz, once he's back, good to go. Good to go. That's right. And you don't have to worry about it again through the postseason, which, again, if there's any silver lining in all of this, that's it. And for some of these playoff teams, especially if they come up against a team who's going through an outbreak, they can just sit back and say, hey, we've been there and we've done that. It happened to us when the games weren't win or go home. And it feels like it's win or go home for the Ravens, although I guess there's still a way they could lose on Sunday and thread the needle somehow with all the different permutations that could occur. But 4 straight losses. It has been a tough ride for the Baltimore Ravens. Some heartbreaking losses. The loss on Sunday to the Bengals that had the extra juice to it with the 525 passing yards and everything after that. They really need to turn it around. And the other problem, Peter, for them, they're playing a Rams team that they kicked the crap out of 2 years ago, 45-6 on Monday Night Football. That was kind of the coronation of Lamar Jackson, his MVP game. And that was such a fun game to watch. Even though it was a blowout, it was so much fun to watch Lamar Jackson. There's some Rams players, and Aaron Donald admitted this yesterday, they're still pissed about that. And, they're holding a grudge 2 years later. Even though they're not going to see Lamar Jackson, they're going to see, most likely, they're going to see the Ravens helmets and uniforms, and this is their chance. For the guys who were on the team then and who remember that night all too well, this is their chance to dish a little payback. And sometimes that notion gets overplayed in football, but if it gives you a little extra motivation to stay focused on top of everything else you need to do and everything else you're playing for, it can't hurt. It's not going to make you any worse if you have an extra little drive and an extra little incentive when you go into a late-season game.
Tell you, the one guy I wouldn't want to give extra motivation to is Aaron Donald. He's the. You haven't heard much about him this year, but I saw a great stat from Pro Football Focus this year that he and Max Crosby are the only players in football with over 60 quarterback pressures this year. And, which means quarterback pressures hit sacks. And, so it might have been more than 80, I forget. But some number, he and Max Crosby are at the head of the line. So I don't know that he's going to win another Defensive Player of the Year, but he'll be all-pro again. And, hey, look, I said this before the year. Aaron Donald there's a good chance that he's going to retire as the greatest defensive tackle of all time. And you can do it by a lot of different measures. It's hard to measure him against players of the old days, against Mean Joe Green. I get it. It's hard to do that. But the fact is, when you measure by All-Pro, which to me, I have no interest in the Pro Bowl. None. Zero. In terms of a measuring stick today. But you measure by All-Pros and he gets a couple more, he'll have more than any in NFL history among defensive tackles. So just look out. I mean, Aaron Donald, you can't say enough good things about him, and appreciate what you're seeing right now. I know the Ravens are not going to appreciate it on Sunday, but appreciate what you're seeing right now because he's an amazing football player.
When we get caught up in the numbers, we get caught up in the sacks, but the pressures really are the key because there's a certain amount of fortuity that is tied to whether or not you're going to get a sack. If you are creating havoc on every play, if you are blowing up the interior of the line on every play, you are doing your job as well as it can be done. And we talk about extra incentive. I think that Aaron Donald this year at times has gotten sick of hearing about other guys. His 3-sack night against the Cardinals came a day after it was wall-to-wall Micah Parsons while he's sitting at home waiting to play the next day. I just suspect that he's had a little extra and now he's got a little extra more as he gets a shot at the Ravens after what happened a couple of years ago on a Monday night. I had gone back and forth on this one. I think the Rams are going to come through. I think the Rams, if anything, Peter, get a lift from the fact that they tried to hand the game to the Vikings on Sunday with 3 interceptions from Matthew Stafford, and the Vikings gave it back like a sweater that doesn't fit. I think that you can actually gain confidence as a team when you have a game that you feel like you should lose and you still win by 7. I feel like that gives you another little boost going into the late games in the regular season.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost like you've got a little layer of armor there, and the talent on your team, and maybe the way you played when you were playing well in that game is enough to overcome the horse crap. And that's what you see sometimes with quarterbacks like Matthew Stafford. You really do. Matthew Stafford giveth, Matthew Stafford taketh away. But I still think the Rams are deliriously happy overall with what they've gotten in Stafford. And this is a big game for the Rams. Now, look, if you look at the whole home field thing, it's highly unlikely that they're going to catch Green Bay. Green Bay has got Minnesota at home, and then they got the Lions. So you wouldn't think that they're going to lose either one of those games. But, you'd rather be the second seed when there's going to be potentially a not very good team as the 7th seed. But, again, the other thing is, what if the 7th seed's the Eagles? Then it really might not matter. Because the Eagles right now are a dangerous team. They've been the best running team in football, very surprisingly, since midseason. So, I mean, there's nothing guaranteed in the playoffs other than it really doesn't look like the Packers are going to surrender the number 1 seed.
Yeah, you're right, and that is going to make it very difficult for the Rams to get to the Super Bowl because unless the Packers are upset in the divisional round, the Rams may see them again in the divisional round like last year. At some point, they're probably going to have to go to Green Bay, and it's going to be a very difficult place for them to win, especially with the playoffs this year a week later. Every level is a week later, so it's a week deeper into the winter in Green Bay and greater chance of getting one of those days like they're going to have on Sunday night when it's low single digits when the Packers host the Vikings for the Sunday night game.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.